Hello everyone. It is Wednesday. It's 4:30 p.m. here in or outside of Chicago. It means it's time for the office hours here on the ViaMonstra Academy. I'm Johan, Andrew, and as usual, we will be sharing updates and happily answer any questions you might have on Intune, ConfigMgr, MDT, and related stuff. Let's get to it. All right, good to see you again, sir.
You as well. How are you doing?
Very good. I have my coffee. It's office hours time. I'm a happy camper.
That's all you really need.
Well, two good things though. So, all right. What's going on in the world, Andrew?
Yeah, so we've had a pretty exciting week. I got a couple things that I'd like to share here.
Want me to display your screen there?
Yes, please.
Yep, let's do it.
So there's been, we've obviously had a lot of talk the last couple of weeks on the new Microsoft Store integration. That finally rolled out to my tenants Friday afternoon. I think they said they were going to complete it by Friday afternoon, and sure enough, Friday afternoon, all my tenants got it.
They kept their promise, right?
Yes, they did. Absolutely. So we can see that in here now. If we go to our Windows apps, go ahead and add, and we'll see this new Microsoft Store app here. Very straightforward to get something going. We just search the Store app for, say, something like VLC. It'll return a couple of different VLC Store apps. There's the UWP app and a Win32 app. You go ahead and select it. Populates most of the information. You can edit this if you want. Select a logo because that doesn't come down by default. And then click Next and Assign. So pretty straightforward from what I've seen as far as creating the applications so far. And as we suspected, it looks very similar to what we had in the previous integration. Now, one of the cool things about having this now is, as we've mentioned, and as many of you have probably seen, the new store uses winget for deploying applications. So I've come across a couple of blog posts now that with this new integration, it's much easier to create apps using PowerShell because there's an integration with Graph. So I've got one blog post from Andrew Taylor here. And so this talks about how we can get some information from Graph, as well as Andrew has a script here on GitHub that creates the company portal app using the store integration. This includes the icon and actually assigns to all users. So this is a great foundation here if you want to use PowerShell to deploy these apps. As well as Sander Rosemuller. I hope I pronounced that right, and I apologize if I did not. But he has another post here on basically how to get the application details and assign an icon as well via PowerShell. So some really cool stuff that we're seeing here. I don't know about you, Johan, but I have a feeling that you are also excited to see some additional automation capabilities surrounding the deployment of these applications.
Always.
It's a beautiful thing. This also, I figured, would be a good time to plug Aaron Parker's GitHub repository for application icons. So we'll just make sure we get these links posted here on after the live stream. But this repo will just have icons for a bunch of different common applications, as you can see here. So very useful stuff. I also came across showcased a couple of solutions recently surrounding, or at least blog posts surrounding automation with logic apps. And earlier this week, Nicholas Tinner posted another blog post regarding Azure Logic Apps. So this is sort of seems to me a good start for getting started with Logic Apps, Graph API, and your managed identities through Azure AD. So it's sort of a basic tutorial on how to maybe help you generate some use cases and see how easy it is to actually get started with these services. So I wanted to share this not only because it gives you that foundation and how to create maybe your first Logic app, but if we scroll down to the bottom, he also provided several use cases that are already out in the community, several blog posts written by some of our other community friends, such as getting a daily device report via email or Teams, connector certificate and token status within Intune, monitoring your Intune environment, reporting changes in your Intune environment, and exporting and importing security profiles using this similar type of setup. So this seems to be Logic App seems to be gaining steam a little bit in the community recently, which is why I keep talking about some of these blog posts I've been seeing over the last several office hours. So I thought this would be a good one to share. And then a couple of other quick updates, announcements from Microsoft that I've seen. The Azure AD portal, if you use aad.portal.azure.com, starting this month, they're going to start in waves, automatically directing customers to entra.microsoft.com. If you've not gone to that URL yet, if we browse over to that, that shows a lot of the common actions and configurations that we have in Azure AD, in the Azure AD portal today. So we can see our users, our groups, devices, BitLocker keys, applications, things like that. But it also has some of the new Entra features like permissions management and verified ID. So all of this, I think, is being collapsed into this admin portal. It sounds like there will be a link, probably this right here, that will allow you to go back to the AAD portal if you'd like. But this is rolling out in waves starting this week, I believe it was. And then another tweet that I came across earlier today looked like a nice announcement from Microsoft. So we recently had a masterclass surrounding mastering Intune and Intune management. And one of our first presenters for that was Kent Agerland, talking about how you might want to, amongst other things, he discussed how you might want to deploy conditional access in your environment. And something that stuck with me since Kent gave his presentation was trying to manage conditional access as code. And so I really was drawn to this announcement that I saw yesterday, I think, that there are 4 conditional access policy templates now available in Azure AD, and you can filter them by several different scenarios here. But what's really cool about that is you can export the JSON for these templates. And if we click on the link to the direct link to the documentation, there it is. Not only can we export it, we can then make adjustments within the JSON file and import them directly in the conditional access page right there. But if we take that a step further, obviously you could script this and automate this and build this into sort of a CI/CD pipeline and manage your conditional access policies as code. So I thought this was really cool, nice baseline to get you going if that's something that you want to utilize in your organization. So those are the things I came across that I found interesting the past week.
You've been busy. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Trying to keep on top of things. There's just so much news with all the different services that we have to work with now.
Yeah, but save the holidays are saved, so that is good.
Absolutely.
All right, I obviously the big thing for that I got excited about was the release of a new ConfigMgr version 22.11, still in early. I would say early bird, but it's an early ring, so you have to opt in to get it. But I will bring up that announcement. So I'm gonna ahead and share this screen. Give me just a moment and share a screen. This one here.
Here we go.
You see this okay?
Yes, sir.
All right, perfect. Now, so not too many major changes in it, but as usual for a early ring release, this is something you start to play around with in your lab. I recommend waiting a month and a half, see what fixes that comes out of that eventually, and then you can start to plan to put that in your production after that. I usually do not recommend to right away put these in your production environments because there are usually a few fixes that are being released the first few weeks of an early bird. Dang it. early ring release. Must have Twitter on my mind. Birds. It's a
I think I'm going to start calling it the early bird.
well, it kind of is.
Yep.
But yeah, anyhow, we have feature update in Software Center. The DP content migration has been in the preview for a bit. It's in here. So there are some somewhat cool changes, but it's not like a massive release this time around. It's more like a nice little addition before Christmas. Outside of that, I did stumble across a repost that I somehow managed to miss. And I even have one of our customers using this. I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing this. And this is an older blog, it's from earlier this year, from Damien, on how to very, very easily add a toast notification to Windows asking for a reboot. Because I lost count the number of times talking to customers, then they like, oh, we have the best compliance ever. We are like 99% compliance on our software updates. And we also have the greatest uptime. I was like, yeah, you see, that's two things that doesn't really compute. If you don't reboot your computers, you did not install that patch. So you have to restart them. And that also goes for stability reasons. One of our customers, they are actually rebooting their machines every single week. They are forcing their users to do that because they learn that if they do that, they reduce the number of help desk calls quite significantly compared to just letting them run and run and run. Because quite frankly, if you have a security update coming down to a machine and you don't reboot and just keep on using that machine, usually you will stumble across issues that are simply related to the very fact that that machine did not reboot. So anyhow, this is two different scripts you can download from this blog post. It took me a little while to figure out where the scripts were because it was just in front of my eyes. I was looking for a GitHub link, and sure enough, click the picture to get it, and then it will take you to GitHub repo. It was like too obvious for me, so I missed that one. But anyway, it's very simple to add them into Intune. So I downloaded them earlier. And I can show you real quick how to do it. So under reports, still puzzled about why they put this under reports and endpoint analytics, but this is where we have proactive remediation script. So create a script. I'm going to call it reboot warning demo. I have an earlier with a similar name since when I was doing the testing, but anyhow, you might want to put a link to the blog post in there, description. And now you simply browse to that file. And I downloaded them earlier, so I have them here in a folder. So this is the detection script that you run, and this would be the remediation script that you run. And the default setting in this script is, I believe it was, 5 days, but you can obviously change that to whatever you want. Click next. Scope tags if you need, assign to a group. I actually created a group for this purpose. I didn't want to send it to all lab machines right away, so I put like a temporary group up that I've used for testing. I only added a few devices, and then that's it. You may want to set the schedule differently. It depends a little bit on when your users are working. But if I go back here to this warning demo and check the assignment again, you can see that it defaults here to 6 p.m. Maybe you wanted to do that earlier in the day, like 10 or 11 a.m. when this kicks in. Because what will happen is it's going to show that notification, obviously, when it runs, if it has been X number of days past. So the way it looked is the following. So here is the detection script, and here is if the date is longer. If I run this one, it will tell me that my machine has been rebooted for the last 1 day, so it's not going to fall into that scope just yet. But I can trigger the remediation script anyway, just for the fun of it. The picture that is being used is simply a base encoded image, so you can just do that and paste it in if you want a different one. But if I run this script, this is what's going to show on the client. If you haven't rebooted since 1 day, what do you do? Restart now, or in this case, dismiss. So quite elegant little toast notification that you can play around with, and hopefully that can give some inspiration also to other things that you want to show up in that. Because the beautiful thing these days, the beautiful thing about these messages is that they are fairly quick to create and fairly instant. Sync the policy, if you're good, they will show up on the client at that time. The new organizational messages that you have in Intune was announced just a little while back. They require some planning because you cannot show them on a client until at the very least 24 hours after you schedule them. So you have to, like, if there is an important message today, you need to know about it yesterday about the same time. Otherwise, it will not show up. But you might have other platforms like Teams or whatever, Slack, to get messages out quickly if there is a need for it. But anyhow, I thought it was cool. Do we have any questions?
We do. We have one coming in from YouTube. Can those icons that I was talking about for the Microsoft Store be used on a web app on Android? I think I can actually take that one.
Okay, because I have no idea. All right, see if I can get your screen up there.
So I believe the answer is yes. So I'm here in Aaron's GitHub repo. I'm just going to choose a PNG here. I'll do 1Password because it was the first one. I'm going to save that to my downloads. And then if I go over to my apps, we'll go to Android, add Android Store app. And then here we'll get a very similar link that we'll see on the Microsoft Store app when we create a new one. And we basically just go and select a PNG. So it looks to me like, yes, that is possible.
All right. Excellent.
Cool.
Then it looks like we have, and I'm happy we are back to see our YouTube comments actually in the normal chat window, because last week we did not. A fairly long question from Chris here, having issues with Windows Hello in a hybrid Azure AD environment. Basically, users are getting a message saying that it's restricted by the organization and they are unable to use Hello. Reading up on the details on the post here on the question. No on-prem group policies, tenant-wide Intune setting is set to not configured. So basically it's Hello with no restrictions at all, so not Windows Hello for Business. I mean, the real question is here, is there a per user setting somewhere that might be controlling that behavior? Nothing that comes to mind immediately.
No, not with no on-prem GPOs that are controlling it. I'd have to give that one some thought. So this one's set to not configured.
There are some following it comments coming in. Basically, the symptom seems to be per user, where a few users work fine, where others don't.
I'm just trying
Imran put in a comment there, a friendly tip to look in the event viewer on the device registration. Event ID apparently 300 is to look at for these type of issues. That was for Windows Hello for Business, though.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. We might go draw a blank on that one, I'm afraid. Nothing that comes to mind immediately, unless you stumble across something, Andrew, in your quick research.
Nothing so far. Pretty much everything's pointing to Hello for Business.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll move on to the next one. And that was a follow-up question on the reboot morning, or the message I showed from Damien, that's his solution he created there. And that's what our views are on enabling, disabling Windows Fast Startup in an enterprise environment. And that has actually been a popular topic quite lately to discuss, because no surprise for a lot of devices, if you do disable it, it will take a longer time to boot. But there have been some issues lately related to different power states and machines. Actually, I was on a call yesterday with Morris and Mike. We were preparing our sessions for tomorrow, talking about laptops coming in. Think of this scenario: you are about to leave the office, so you just slam down the lid on the device, and then you plug out the power cable afterwards. So basically, the state of the device is that it was on power when the lid was closing down. So now it's in one of the sleep states. You may find that in that scenario, depending on your configuration, depending on your hardware, you may have a very, very warm laptop in your backpack after a while because it doesn't realize that power is actually gone and it's supposed to go to sleep and do nothing at all, especially if you have a software update or something coming into that device also earlier. So I don't know. I haven't seen too many organizations go in and actively disable it. That's something you guys do in your environment, Andrew?
No, we leave it on.
All right. Let's see. So something else popping up. Did I miss any question there?
So Chris was still following up on the Windows Hello. Are you able to use regular Hello if your machines are AAD join, or is Windows hybrid, Windows Hello for business a requirement? Personally, I've only used Hello for business in that scenario, rather than trying to get just the regular Windows Hello working. So I'm not entirely sure.
Yes, same here. I haven't worked with it in any environment. What are you looking up that? There is a question coming in regarding bulk enrollment packages instead of Autopilot. The question is there a way to detect if a device has been enrolled through this? The enrollment profile property is black on devices used or enrolled by provisioning packages. Not on the top of my head, but it seems like there should be some sort of event entry or information on that device in Graph that indicates that it was bulk enrolled. A resource I think could be worth looking into is the AAD internals modules. Let's see, NeHaus has a post to that. NeHaus has a post to that post, or link to that post. So let me see here, bulk. This one and the AAD internals module here. This post. This is the one I was looking for. It goes into a great deal about the internals.
Still sharing my screen, Johan.
That's probably why it doesn't show up.
There we go.
All right, let's backtrack this just a little bit. First, I went to officehours.com with this NeHaus blog. I searched for bulk in his little search thing, and that took me to this post here. And in that link, or further down in this blog post, a good catch there, Andrew, thank you. There is a link to this post here. And that was the one I was talking about earlier, because this will give you an internals view to the bulk enrollment. And there are a lot of commands available in that particular module up on PowerShell Gallery you can download and take a look at. So maybe that would be a starting point to figure something out. So the cool thing about this module is it can also request bulk enrollment packages. You can actually automate that part and don't have to go through the pretty painful experience in the configuration designer. And this one also allows you to override some of the default settings that are in the designer. So highly recommend taking a look at that one and see if that gives you any clues. All right. Any other questions out there? Still have half an hour to go. 29 good minutes.
Plenty of time for questions.
Yes, indeed. I was so bummed. I got a new hat for office hours. If you can see it. But it turned out to be too small for my big head. So
Oh no.
I have to stick to my old one today, this one.
It is a bummer.
Yeah, that was can't have it all. I mean, for those of you who haven't seen the announcement in social media, kind of hard to not, because we have been tweeting quite a bit of them, up on our friendly sister YouTube channel, Deployment Research. We are posting now through the month of December every day a short demo about something. So 6 videos out so far, obviously, and a 7th one coming later today, some point this evening, if all goes well. So
these have just been some really cool bits of information that have been really helpful. I think I especially liked your using a Win32 app to copy content down to an endpoint. It's a pretty cool
helpful.
tip.
Yeah, it's free download. You don't have to pay for it. That's brilliant. Using delivery optimization for peer-to-peer, it's fast. You can use a CAS server if you have one. So
very clever.
Yeah, I can probably share something I stumbled across. I did this video here on Monday, right? It's Wednesday today. Monday.
Yes.
No, Sunday. It must be Sunday. 3 days ago. Yeah, dates. Anyhow, and everything worked beautifully, and I deployed it to 30-some machines that I had in my lab, and I could remote into them, and everything worked. And then I decided in our course the day before yesterday that we run on the Academy to, let's just upgrade all my machines to Windows 10 22H2, because when I did the demo, it was 21H2. And after upgrading to Windows 10 22H2, I could remote into exactly 0 out of these 30 machines. So I went on some research early this morning, and what I stumbled across was apparently some sort of hardening done on the security side in 22H2. So what I had to do was and I haven't really found the root source yet or why that is. I just found the solution, and I was pretty happy about that. But what it came down to was that, let me edit the settings, it's kind of easier to see. This one here, I had to flip the security layer over to RTP to be able to continue to remote into these devices from my Windows Server 2019 server and through the remote desktop manager tool I'm using. And the only change that was done was the upgrade to 22H2. So, short end story, should you stumble across any issues there, try setting this to a lower level than it was by default. And in my case, it took care of all these 30 machines. So that was a fun research. Yeah. Anyhow, 30, 40
those challenging ones.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Question coming in on YouTube. Anyone know how to disable connected standby mode and standby? Upon locking, laptops are instantly going into a standby mode. Then are some unexpected reboots after waking up. I can't say I have done that.
I was doing
doable, though.
Yeah, I was doing a little research while you were talking, Johan. It looks like there are some. If you want to share my screen, I can show this. It looks like there are some registry keys that you can set, or commands that you can run. So let's see. This just has the registry key here. So you could do this obviously through just running the command, or if you're using ConfigMgr or Intune, a PowerShell script or a proactive remediation or a configuration baseline, something like that. So it looks like that's one way to do it. And then there was actually, I thought I saw a power configure command. But maybe not. The registry settings, I think, should be pretty straightforward, though. I've not given this a try myself, but maybe this will be useful. Looks like it may do the trick.
I was wondering if, because there are a few standby connections in through Power CFD as well, if they maybe can be useful. If I can steal the screen for a second, I did a quick search up on the GitHub code search. And for those of you who doesn't know it, if you go to cs.github.com, you can search in all repositories that are, well, searchable here. And if you search for something like this, and then you specify the language you want to search for, you ended up with a reply like this. And I did start to see some configurations here, scripts that are setting those policies, looking for settings. So maybe something like that can help out as well. Obviously untested, but I thought it was interesting enough. And I often learn a lot from these code snippets, because sometimes they put in documents or comments to them that are like, oh, brilliant, this is why we're doing this. And then you learn something. So highly, highly recommended. It's fairly fresh. I've been using maybe a year or two, give or take.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anyhow. Let's see what else.
Imran was asking a question on YouTube. We're using SCCM GPO for software updates. How easy is it to move to Windows Update for Business? Our devices are co-managed. Any blogs or experience you have come across to move all to Intune?
Oh, that one is yours because you just did it.
That's the word on the street. Well, easy is subjective. You could just move the workload slider over to Intune and set your update rings, and you're good to go. If you want to share my screen for a minute here, Johan.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, we can go here in our ConfigMgr console, and we look at the properties of our co-management settings. Looks like my site server's snoozing a little bit there. There we go. And then we can switch our Windows Update policies over to Intune if we want to do for everything. However, if you're going to be testing this out for the first time, obviously I would recommend moving this to Pilot, or even if you're going to run it for a while, I like to keep this in Pilot for to have a little bit more control. And then select a device collection that you want to have that workload moved over. And then from there, you configure your gosh, I swear I've done this before. Then you configure your update rings within Intune and assign these to the devices that you've moved over. You may have a pilot update ring, you may have a production update ring, or multiple production update rings, and those will be able to handle it. As far as any issues or blog posts that I recommend, so in my experience and several others in the community, not all of your devices will set the proper registry keys over to use Windows Update for Business if you're switching from ConfigMgr to Windows Update for Business. So I actually wrote a blog post back in May, I think this was. Basically a quick way to audit and fix some of those registry keys in a co-management scenario. So there's a number of registry keys that you need to take a look at. and this has a CM pivot query to look at those. And then a quick PowerShell script to set these to the proper value. Now there is a more comprehensive reporting solution from MS Endpoint Manager. I think it was Ben that put this together. Right here. That we can do a little bit more reporting from log analytics, and there are several more registry keys that actually matter in this situation. The ones that I had in my blog post were just some of the more obvious and more common ones. So I'll share both of these links as well, because this may help that situation. So those are the things I've found useful.
All right, awesome.
Just make sure I get these links out here. Right.
Perfect.
What else?
Was a question coming in, it was from Radu on YouTube, asking, out of curiosity, what resources do you have so you can have 34 machines running at the same time? I can share that. Let's see here. So actually, I've been asking that question quite a bit over the years. So I ended up writing a blog post about the lab setup that I have. So this is about a year old, but I still have these two friends around. So these are two HP C8040 workstations that have a lot of memory and a lot of disk and a lot of CPUs each. So this one here that I'm actually sharing right now is one of those machines. And I can run about 100 VMs at the same time before this one decides to say hi and goodbye. So I can have about 200 VMs on them together. They are networked in the backend through, you don't see it, but it's a 10 gigabit switch up here. I have a few more since this picture was taken. And then I have 20 of these. I only have 6 in this picture, but I have 14 more. So these are just Optiplexes micro, and they can typically run 5 to 10 VMs each as well. So all in all, when this is put together and networked up, it looks something like this. And this is set up and running now for a good few years, but it allows me to spin up a lot of different environments very, very quickly. Different networks, different subnets. It's just, it's a good home lab, put it that way. It's been very, very helpful for testing things. And then I have a bunch of laptops also that I use for driver testing and BIOS update testing and the other stuff. So eBay and me, we are good friends. All right, let's see. Question on LinkedIn. Do you have a script or any articles in order to bulk remove computers from basically Intune, Autopilot, or Azure AD? Yes, I do. I have been working on updating a blog post I put together that includes a bunch of these scripts. I'm not fully there yet, but I can show you where I got the inspiration from. The first one was from the PowerShell gallery. Alexei Semibratov, he used to work for Microsoft, he's a consultant now, but he wrote an Autopilot nuke model. I think it's still up here. Yeah, this one here. That script has a lot of good information about deleting all these different objects and in which order you need to delete them. Another good one is a cleanup script that Oliver Kieselbach put together at some point. Autopilot, delete something. Yeah, so this is, even though this is about 2 years old, it's still valid. Very few things have changed since. But this one uses a CC file, but you can, of course, modify that code to search for devices in any way you want to get them. We do very similar things when we are looking for devices in Azure AD. We have PowerShell scripts that are basically used for, well, not that one, but let's see. This one here, where you search for different types of objects based on attributes they have, and based on what you get in return, you start to look them up in different databases, meaning you look them up in Intune, you look them up in Azure AD, you look them up in Autopilot, and you can start to do things with them. What we found recently was if you do this as part of your side of imaging processes, there are actually some timing issues that you need to take care of. So for example, what we found was that, sure enough, if you start by deleting the Intune object and eventually the Autopilot device, you have to wait a few minutes until we can delete it from Azure AD. So we actually added this early in the WinPE phase, and it's obviously not WinPE that does this. We call a web service that does the actual job. And then later down the road, when it's definitely been more than 5 minutes because we've been deploying Windows, that's when we go ahead and delete the Azure AD device. And this is something that is typically required if you are re-imaging the same devices over and over again into Autopilot, especially if you're using like the pre-provisioning scenario, the white glove type scenarios, which a lot of schools are using. So I will hope to shape all these scripts shortly, but in the meantime, by all means, take a look at the resources that I showed you there. Yeah.
Well, at least you have me badgering you about those scripts too.
I only asked 3 times for them, in all fairness. Maybe that will be my Christmas gift for the Intune community. Getting those published.
Fancy.
All right, what else?
Let's see. Imran had a follow-up. Our devices are in the pilot Intune and still not getting the update rings from Windows Update for Business. I would recommend checking out those couple of blog posts just to see if the registry keys are set properly. That was the most common issue that I ran into. And then there was a follow-up from LinkedIn. I have a list of serial numbers, which is what I would normally use to search for the device in Autopilot enrollment. I think that'll be handled by that stuff that you were showing, right, Johan?
Yeah, the script that Oliver posted, that searches for exactly that. It expects to find serial numbers in that CSV file, and that's how we found the devices. Obviously, you have to look up the Azure audio object a bit differently, but for the Autopilot stuff, that's how you find the device.
Sounds good. And then Jesse was asking a question on YouTube. If you have a machine in Autopatch, I noticed that the release OS version is outdated. What ways can you upgrade your OS if your devices are in Autopatch? So yes, that is true. They are outdated. If you want to share my screen for a moment here, Johan.
Yes, sir.
At Ignite, they announced that feature updates are coming soon to Autopatch. This was a couple of months back now. I have seen that if we go over to Autopatch here, it looks like the framework is there. So we have release management here, but we can't really do anything except pause or resume on these. And if we look at our feature update profiles, the feature update profiles are built. They're just pointing to older versions of Windows 10 21H2. And I haven't quite played around with the feature update portion of Autopatch yet, so I can't speak super knowledgeably about it. But you typically can't adjust any of these, any of the versions or anything within these policies, because within, 30 minutes or so, I think, Autopatch will actually set them back. So if you're going to Windows 11 22H2, it looks like you may be able to just drop some of your devices into this Azure AD group that Autopatch creates. If you are if you're wanting to go to Windows 10 22H2, I don't actually know at this moment if you could assign an additional feature update ring to those devices you want to update. So it looks, I agree, Jesse. It looks a little definitely outdated, and it looks a little messy for feature updates at the moment. And I think this is going to be on my list to follow up on the feature updates portion of this. And it does look like Jesse had a follow-up comment just to add, if you deregister a device from Autopatch, you need to put in a support ticket in order to add a device back per Microsoft. So that's interesting.
It still surprises me that, it's probably not an entire surprise for Microsoft that they are releasing a new version of Windows. You would think that we'd be able to update the Intune side of things more quickly. There are still drop-downs where you simply cannot select the newer versions of Windows. So hopefully it will be addressed quickly. But I was trying to find any update. I just see other people asking about this in the community with no real reply on when. The latest questions were actually just a few weeks back. So if anyone happened to know, maybe you already submitted a ticket and got a reply, please share it with us. Otherwise, we will update you on this channel whenever we stumble across a solution for it. Maybe even a blog post. Are you up for some writing, Andrew?
I think I could handle that.
That sounds good. All right.
Great questions coming in, though. Some good stuff today.
Yeah. Saving the best for last. Yeah, it's good. Uh-huh. That's good. Did we miss any questions? I don't think so. And we still have 5 minutes to go. So if you do have a question, please post it. We do accept questions on YouTube, LinkedIn, as well as Facebook for those of you watching there. Twitter we won't see, unfortunately, but yeah. Well, let me steal that screen real quick. If you haven't seen it, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., me, Maurice Dalis, and Mike Terrell is going to spend a good hour and a half plus Q&A discussing modern driver and BIOS management. So if you're up for that session, you want to learn more about that, please join us. It's free to attend. It's one of our community sessions. So looking forward to that one for sure.
Yeah, this is going to be exciting.
All right, let's see. There is one question coming in. Where can we find attributes for a device? Like basically everything we don't see in the GUI, I'm assuming here. That will be through Microsoft Graph. And there are plenty of Intune examples out there, both from the community, but also from Microsoft, on how to get that information. You can even use the Graph Explorer while browsing the Intune portal. That usually gives you some insight. Or GraphX, it's called. The Graph Explorer is like a GUI version of getting into that kind of data. So that's kind of helpful. But that's where I would look for that type of info. All right. I don't see anything else coming in.
Oh, me either.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining and for listening to us and asking questions. We hope to see you again next week, the same time. Thank you so much for now.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your week.